The National Financial Aid Scheme says it will ensure that all payments outstanding from 2023 for allowances will be paid. At least 20,000 students did not receive their payments. The Financial Aid Scheme says by the 15th of January, the students should receive their payments. For more on this, we're joined by NSFAS Spokesperson Ishmail Mnisi, who joins me in studio. Very good morning to you. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you, Mpo, and thank you very much. And also, Happy New Year to you.
NSFAS has come under harsh criticism from different stakeholders in the sector over your internal management issues and decisions relating to the new direct payment system. You're now saying that you're going to ensure that students are paid. How are you going to do this? How are you going to ensure that this problem, this issue, is problem-free and not further exacerbate on the frustrations that students already have?
Well, Mpo, what NSFAS intends to do is to intensify on its stakeholder management, which in this instance, institutions of higher learning, both our universities and TVET colleges, are very central towards the success of NSFAS's work, including the payment of allowances to students. Now, of course, NSFAS has gone through various stages of transformation, including bringing in new systems into play. You have just mentioned now the direct payment system, which is one system that we believe that it will be able to resolve all these challenges of delays in payment. However, if it is done properly and in accordance with in liaison with our institutions of higher learning, particularly the issues of data management or sharing of data between ourselves and the institutions. So this is how we intend to do away with the delays in payment if we get our data system going well with our institutions.
So this promise that you've made, how are you going to ensure that it's a smooth process, and have you set a deadline for it?
Of course. We have started working on our reconciled final payment since October 2023. And we have seen payments for more than 250,000 students who were delayed being paid as we speak. Now we are only left with about 20,000 students, of which we said by the 15th of January we should have done to make investigations with our institutions, because NSFAS at the moment cannot finalize on those up until it speaks to institutions, because the data is received. There are numerous inquiries that we would like to make, because there are changes in the data of students and the codes that have been used by institutions. Now, that's why we need to engage with them further, so that we collectively can interpret that data and can finalize these disbursements. And our anticipated date, as we are saying, is the 15th of January, that all these consultations would have been done. And we anticipate that if consultations are done without any further delays, we should have been able to pay by the 15th of January.
One of the other concerns that students have raised is clarity. They say they want clarity on the direct payments and companies facilitating them, saying that that in itself is still a very grey area. How are you ensuring that there is clarity and understanding, and that you're very open about that information?
Well, the issues of the direct payment service providers, as maybe on the other side of the investigations, we are going to implement the Werksman report, which made certain recommendations in as far as the current direct service providers are concerned, and NSFAS will make a pronouncement in as far as that is concerned. However, the system works as follows. When data has been received from institution, it comes to NSFAS for processing, and then NSFAS passes it over to the direct payment service providers after it has done its due diligence. Now then the direct payment service providers makes the necessary payments. So where there are problems in terms of students not being paid on time, or if they are not even paid at all, the problem might not actually rest with the direct service provider, payment providers. It might be either with the flow of information from institution to NSFAS and the processing of that information thereof. So that's how the system works. The unfortunate part with the direct service providers is that they are at the coalface of the process, and students interact with them. So the temptation to, accord all the challenges or problems to them, it's there. Because they represent us as NSFAS, and they represent, of course, the institutions that, they are, based in. So we are working with the direct payment service providers. We are working with our institutions to make sure that our systems are seamless, so that there are no glitches in the system. Because if there is a glitch from an institution, it affects NSFAS. If there's a glitch from NSFAS, it will then affect the payment period.
Yeah.
And this is what we are trying to deal with. The board of NSFAS made it very clear to all management that we were not allowed to take any leave. We were there to make sure that we clean up the system, to make sure that all the necessary glitches are removed. And that's why we are, we have put the date of the 15th as a date that we envisage that if our institutions are open on time and we interact with them, we then should be able to clear this backlog.
Yeah. The other point of concern was tertiary institutions themselves saying that they're concerned about these woes at NSFAS. They spoke about how, NSFAS capacity to manage student accommodation allocations in itself is also a big headache. How are you going to ensure that that process is also smooth? Because what we saw, what we heard from students was heartbreaking. The impact of this was massive, especially looking at the kind of students, where they come from. Some students saying they were forced to stay on campus as some left because there were no other means of getting home.
Well, the problem we are relating to now is the problem of disbursement, which is what we have been talking about, that there's much work that has been done, and we would really want to make sure that there are no further delays in the system when it relates to the payment of disbursements, particularly because the last actual disbursement NSFAS has to make is in October. And the month of November, we are dealing with the reconciliation period. So we would want to keep up to those deadlines, and we would, working together with our institutions, we believe that we can do that part. Now, with regard to the issues of student accommodation, look, we are running a pilot project this year. We have 17 universities that we have identified. We've got 23 TVET colleges where we will be registering, taking over actually the accreditation of private residencies to make sure that all NSFAS students reside in safe and habitual places which are conducive for learning and teaching within the sector. So we are committed to do that, and we are going to work with our institutions. Already we have started to visit some of them, and as early as next week, we are meeting with the University of South Africa, USAF. We are meeting with SAPCO, which represent TVET college principals. We will be meeting with SAWUS, representing university students. We will be meeting with SAFETA, representing TVET college students, to make sure that we explain all the processes that NSFAS will be embarking on, because they will not be successful if we don't work with our stakeholders. Now, it is important that we engage with them, we have an understanding, so that when we implement together, we can take collective responsibility.
So with the application process, having received over 200,000 applications, I understand, how much communication have you had with the applicants? Because the other argument was that, students saying that they wanted to know if they were rejected in advance so that an appeals process can be launched, saying it's no use you informing them on January the 31st that the application has been rejected, which then means that the appeals process will probably now lead them to the second semester, giving them a late start to the 2024 academic year.
Well, we are now standing at about 500,000 students who have applied, and we're giving SASA students real-time responses, because already they are receiving grants and their information is there with our third-party agents that are assisting us. That is the Department of Home Affairs, SARS, including Social Development. Now, SASA recipients, when they apply and qualify immediately, they get their responses. Those that we don't give them instant responses are those that we still might require additional information from them. But we are going to communicate that as soon as possible to make sure that by the close of date of the application season, which is the 31st of January this year, we would have communicated to all our applicants, we would have told them whether they are successful or not, if there's additional information that they need to give us. So
what kind of additional information?
Well, sometimes you find that an applicant has said that their parents qualify in terms of our 350,000 per annum, both the parents' salaries, and that information doesn't tally with what we have in the system. Now we would ask them back to give us more information in relation to that, because if the SARS information says to us, well, the parents combined, their joint income is more than 350,000, it means what information that the student would have provided might not be correct. Or probably there might have been developments that the system is not aware of. That's why we put the burden to them to give us more information in relation to that. The other part which we request is their academic records, or in case of new applicants, would wait for the matric results to come out, and this year is on the 19th of January. So as soon as we receive their results, we ask of them to provide us that information so that we can complete their application. So that is the type of information we are looking for.
And that information speaks to the missing middle, really, too rich and too poor, which really was the massive loophole as we look at some frustrations from students when it comes to accessing finances and furthering their education. But there's also a big problem, another big problem, budget cuts. More than 87,000 university students could lose out on their NSFAS funding this year. That cut will come with a lot of repercussions and risks, Ishmael.
Certainly. Maybe on the issues of the missing middle, the Minister of Education, Science and Innovation, Professor Nzimande, will make an announcement, a very, very progressive announcement relating to the funding for the missing middle student, because at least government for now has approved the loan scheme that would be looking at helping those. But the Minister will be giving us more details on how the scheme is going to work. So at least we will then be able to deal with that component of the student which are not too rich, nor too poor to receive the NSFAS bursary in its current form. So with this year, it would be one different year where they will be accommodated one way or the other. And also, we must not forget that we do have what is called the National Research Foundation, which is also an entity of the Department of Science and Innovation, which Minister Nzimande is responsible for, which also gives postgraduate funding. And in that funding, those that are in the missing middle bracket do qualify for that kind of funding. So that should be looked at broadly as part of a puzzle of the combo of finance that seeks to resolve the issues of the missing middle.
Yeah.
Of course, the issues of the budget cuts will definitely affect the number of students that we are funding. You know that this year NSFAS is funding more than 1.2 million students. We are still in the application season. We don't know how many applications we are going to get, but we envisage that should the budget cuts be there, they might affect the number of the students that will be funded by NSFAS. It's either will stabilize on the current numbers or we might have to decrease. Because if those cuts take place, we might not be able to take more than what we are currently taking as funded students. So we would wait for the necessary pronouncements to be made, for the final budgets to be given to us. Then we'll know how many students NSFAS will be able to fund in the 2024 academic year.
Ishmail Mnisi, thank you very much. Thanks for coming to speak to us about this. NSFAS spokesperson giving us some details around payments when it comes to the outstanding 2023 allowances.